team is going to be the big surprise, making to an Elite Eight. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, that's what makes the NCAA tournament so special, and why people continue to come back and watch it year after year. Obviously, basketball is a good sport, and it's going to have its fans anyway. But you get a lot of people that don't really follow the sport year round that pay attention to the NCAA tournament, because that upset aspect of it is so exciting. And to see, everyone wants to root for the little guy, and to see these small teams from small conferences make deep runs in the NCAA tournament is definitely very exciting. I think one to watch, and one that I have as an upset early, is Vermont over Florida State. I like the way Vermont plays defense. I like the way they shoot free throws. And I think Florida State is maybe a little overrated in my opinion. So that's definitely one I have in the first round. If, for them to actually make an Elite Eight, I don't know. That's tough. They'd have to go through Marquette, and obviously they got to go through Gonzaga if they're going to get past the Sweet 16. So I definitely don't have them in my pool, but that's one I think, at least in the first round, is one to watch out for.
Also, Buffalo is another one to watch as well, too. Buffalo went fairly deep. They got in the Sweet 16, but they already have a coach that they're talking like maybe after the season or another season, maybe pulled into the NBA ranks right away. And also, that you could have a couple of players going maybe in the first round, free agents or so.
Yep. Buffalo is a good team.
And yes, I watched them and I said these guys are going to be back. And last year I thought Rhode Island was going to make it far, but they're not in the tournament. And Loyola Chicago's not in the tournament. They got knocked out by Bradley. They're rated 15th, but Nevada was up there. I think they were ranked number 6 at one point, and I could probably see them maybe Sweet 16, possibly get exit in the second round. But I am noticing that some of the teams that some are going a conservative route, but I've got myself picked in there. I got North Carolina, Duke, I got Gonzaga, and Kentucky. They're going to be going to the Final Four, and they're all consistent. And Gonzaga is going to make another run. But I have to say one thing about Duke: Zion Williamson is the real deal, and look for him to go to the NBA next year and be a number 1 pick. And whoever goes into the lottery, look for a super team like, say, Boston, Houston, Golden State, or Oklahoma City, anybody like that, try to trade and get that number 1 pick with Zion Williamson.
Yeah, Zion Williamson is one of the more exciting basketball players I've seen in a long time. It's unfortunate it's fortunate for the NBA, obviously. It's a little unfortunate for college basketball that there are so many one-and-done players that play, 1 year and they go straight to the NBA. Showing my age a little bit again, I remember watching Patrick Ewing play for 4 years at Georgetown, and watching Patrick Ewing as a senior play college basketball for Georgetown University. It was, you don't get basketball exactly like that anymore. He was absolutely dominant, and it's unfortunate you don't get to see the players develop in the college game, because the college game is a lot different than the NBA game is. And it's unfortunately you don't get to see them develop for as long as you used to. But it's still exciting for that 1 year to watch some of these super freshmen come out and then go straight to the NBA. But yeah, Zion Williamson is probably the best player in the country right now, and the best player in this tournament.
And of course, too, Kentucky had that 1 year where they had 5 super freshmen, and I believe that either all of them or 3 or 4 of them went straight to the NBA afterwards, but they just keep rebuilding, and of course give the coaching staff a lot of credit, and of course look out for the Kansas as well, too. It's just like Kansas can be unpredictable. They can lose in the first round or even second round or go all the way to NCAA. Look out for Kansas State and Bruce Weber. He knows how to get it done, though.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yes, that's right. And, of course, we'll talk about the Detroit Pistons as well, too. And, just your thought on the Pistons and how far do you think they'll go and how are they looking for next season?
Well, unfortunately, I think they'll probably lose in the first round of the playoffs. the Pistons are in NBA purgatory right now, unfortunately. It seems that the path to take in the NBA is to either have two or three superstars and build, a super team a la the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat way back when. That's sort of what the Los Angeles Lakers are trying to do, bringing LeBron over, obviously. They haven't had as much success, or the Golden State Warriors. So you can be one of those teams, or you can be one of the worst teams, get some good lottery picks, get a Zion Williamson, or a couple guys like that, sort of like the 76ers did, and you can build your team there. Unfortunately, like I said, the Pistons are in what's known as NBA purgatory because they're just good enough to get an 8 or a 7 seed in the playoffs, but they're not good enough to go any farther than that. So being in the middle, kind of where they are right now, is sort of the worst place to be in the NBA. I think they're going to have to make some free agent signings or some interesting trades in order to really put them over the top.
It also requires stocking up on draft picks or just trying to get the one player. But, of course, trying to get past the Greek freak of Milwaukee or get past Toronto or even Boston, that's probably a daunting challenge, especially going up against the Greek freak in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, Toronto especially has been on the rise for a while. They're another team that, was in the doldrums of the NBA for a little bit. And they've made a comeback, post Vince Carter and everything like that. So they're a team to watch out for. There are a number of teams in the East. The East tends to be more competitive than the West, and the West tends to have the better teams. Mm-hmm. So the 2 or 3 teams that are on top in the West are all teams that could win the NBA championship. And in the East, especially now that LeBron James isn't in the East anymore, it seems that there's a lot of teams jockeying for position to see who's going to face that Western Conference opponent in the final.
And who do you think is the most likely candidate that's going to go against the Golden State Warriors?
Well, I lean towards Toronto, to be honest. I like a lot of what they're doing over there, and I think they're probably my pick. The Bucks and the 76ers obviously are both, good candidates, and the Pacers. I think any one of those 4 teams could go. But the Bucks have had a fabulous season as well, and I think they've got some exciting shooters. If the Bucks shoot the ball well, I think they're the team to go. But I like a little bit of what the Raptors do, especially the way they play defense, and I feel like that's probably my pick for the finals.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going to be interesting as well, too, and, of course, coinciding with hockey, and, of course, being title town from years past with the Detroit Red Wings. Of course, Jimmy Howard just got news that he just got signed to a 1-year extension, and, that's the stability part as well, too. And, of course, with Detroit, do you think they'll bring back the magic that they have before, too, or is it going to take some time to rebuild?
Well, they're definitely trying. We went through a period of time when I was growing up, and I remember the dark time before they started to become a successful team again. But 25 straight years in the playoffs. I mean, it's almost. I mean, it is unheard of, but it's almost even unimaginable what they were able to do for the period of time that they were able to do it. Now, obviously, the Red Wings have fallen on some harder times and have started to rebuild. There's rumors that Steve Yzerman might come back to be the general manager of the team, and people are, they're looking toward him as a savior, kind of. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with Ken Holland and his contract going forward, but I think they're probably still, the Red Wings are probably still about 2 years away, I think, 2 to 3 years away from annually competing for the playoffs and making their Stanley Cup run. they've got some exciting young players they've been able to get early in the draft, and we'll have to see what happens with them.
That reminded me of when you mentioned about Steve Yzerman coming back. Red Wing fans looking at him as a savior to rescue the franchise. I remember Jimmy Rutherford way back when, the stellar goalie for the Detroit Red Wings, who went through some hard times themselves too. He retired and he became like the coach, the general manager, and he eventually built the team to become a Stanley Cup contender. That name seems to ring a bell along the lines with Steve Yzerman. I mean, I'm going way back too myself. So
right.
So
Yeah, it's definitely a similar situation.
It does, too. You're right. And, of course, we'll get to some of your podcasts as well, too. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking a budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Evan Fine of the Senior Reserve Group. When you start thinking about retirement, who are you going to call about Medicare? Why call the best? Evan Fine of Senior Reserve Group, specializing in Medicare, health, and long-term care insurance. Evan can be reached at 1-800-650-9357. That's 1-800-650-9357, or email to evanfine@seniorreservegroup.com. Evan is licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, South Carolina, and Florida. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. Also, check our Facebook, facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also download and listen on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and watch the interview on YouTube as well. We're here with Mark Phillips, the owner of Michigan Sports and Entertainment, talking a lot of sports and covering what's been happening in Detroit. Obviously, Detroit is a huge sports town, going through ups and downs, and a lot of magic happening, especially in baseball, football, and some basketball. And he is also a host of Massive Late Fee. It's a podcast that's been going for quite some time. So tell us all about the podcast.
So the podcast is an entertainment podcast that I do with my friend Mike. Mike and I have known each other since sixth grade, so quite a number of years. And he's actually married to my cousin. I introduced the two of them, so I guess I'm sort of a matchmaker too. But we do an entertainment podcast where we talk about movies and television shows. A lot of times we'll do. I mean, I'll give you an example. The episode that we did previously was about Captain Marvel, which had just come out, and now the next episode that comes out tomorrow is about the Kids in the Hall, the sketch comedy show from the late 80s and early 90s. So we do a mixture of old and new on our show, and we just kind of give our thoughts about things that we're interested in as far as entertainment goes. My friend Mike does not like to watch a lot of TV shows or movies, so we have a segment on the show called Educating Mike, where I read him the plot of some movie or TV show or comic book that he's never heard of, and try to convince him that it's good. The other thing we do is, so that comes out every Thursday on iTunes, and it's also available at MichiganSportsAndEntertainment.com and at any place that you get podcasts. We have a sister show that's in the same place. It's called Retro Late Fee. That comes out every Tuesday. And it's sort of the same show. I do it with my wife, Carol, and we pretend that it's 25 years ago. So right now we're in March of 1994. And we do all the news, all the movies, all the television shows as if it's actually that time period. So we just covered, what did we cover on the news? They're possibly making a movie of of Outbreak and of the book The Hot Zone that Ridley Scott was supposed to direct. Hot Zone actually never came out. Outbreak obviously did, but that was part of the news. I pull up archives from the Los Angeles Times and things like that to find the entertainment news of the day, and we go through it and give our takes on it. The last episode we did was on The Naked Gun 33 1/3, which in March of 1994 had just come out in the theater. and was actually the #1 movie in America for a little while.
I remember.